The air was heavy, and the ground was wet from the rain that had just passed. A young man stood alone in the cemetery, his shoulders shaking as he tried to hold back his tears. His name was Adam. He was only 19, yet the world already felt empty for him. Before him stood a fresh grave, the soil dark and unsettled, the flowers still lying gently across it. The stone was plain, but it carried the most painful truth of his life, the name of his mother. She was gone, and Adam felt like the last piece of his heart was buried with her. He whispered softly, his voice breaking with each word, "Mom, I don't know how to live without you." His hands trembled as he pressed them into the earth. The silence around him grew heavy. Even the wind seemed to stop. For Adam, the world had lost its sound, its color, its warmth. All that remained was loneliness. But then something strange happened. A faint hum, almost too quiet to notice, spread through the air. Adam lifted his head, confused. The cemetery was supposed to be silent, but now he could hear a low vibration like energy pulsing nearby. He turned slowly, his eyes scanning the shadows between the old trees and crooked stones. At first he thought his grief was making him imagine things. But then he saw it. A figure stood at the edge of the cemetery, tall, thin, but not human. Its body shone faintly in the dim light, as if metal and flesh had been fused together. Parts of its armor were cracked, wires hanging loosely, sparks flickering across its frame. Its face was smooth and pale, with glowing blue eyes that seemed both powerful and broken. It looked like a machine, but when Adam met its gaze, he felt something more, something alive. Adam froze, fear locking his body in place. His mind screamed to run, but his feet would not move. The figure stepped closer, its movement slow and careful. The sound of metal against stone echoed across the graveyard. The young man's heart pounded louder with every step the stranger took. Finally, the figure stopped only a few feet away. Its glowing eyes softened, and for a long moment neither spoke. Then, in a voice that was not fully mechanical yet not fully human, the figure said, "You are not alone." Adam blinked, not believing his ears. The voice carried sadness, a deep sorrow that matched his own grief. What are you?" he whispered. The figure lowered its head almost in shame. "I do not know what I am anymore," it said. "I was made to protect. But I failed." The word struck Adam's heart. He looked back at his mother's grave, then at the stranger again. It was strange, this being, this machine, seemed to understand him. He could feel the same emptiness, the same weight of loss. The figure's voice broke softer now. "Today, I lost my mother too." Adam's breath caught. The pain in his chest deepened. He had thought no one could possibly share his grief. Yet here stood a creature, alien, mechanical, and wounded, who spoke as if it carried the same wound inside. The cemetery seemed to grow colder. The silence between them was heavy with unspoken feelings. Adam finally found the courage to step forward, though his knees shook. He asked quietly, "Why are you here? Why come to me?" The figure's glowing eyes flickered. It raised its head, and for a moment Adam thought it might attack. But instead it took a step back, almost like it was afraid of him. "Because I have nowhere else to go," the figure said. "They took everything from me, my home, my family, my mother." Its voice shook on the last word like a child learning how to cry. Adam stared, torn between fear and compassion. He could feel his own loneliness reflected in the creature. Something inside him whispered that this meeting was not an accident. The figure's eyes glowed brighter as it looked at him. "Human," it said, its voice trembling but sincere. "Can I stay by your side?" Adam's lips parted, but no sound came out. The world felt frozen in that moment. He could hear nothing but his own heartbeat. He did not know whether to run, to scream, or to reach out. His mother was gone. But now, in the middle of his pain, something impossible stood before him, asking for a place in his life. Before Adam could answer, the ground shook slightly beneath his feet. A low rumble filled the sky above them. Clouds parted, and in the distance a dark shape began to emerge from the night. It was massive, far larger than any human aircraft. Its surface glowed with red lights, and a deep roar followed as it descended closer to the earth. The figure turned its head quickly, its voice urgent. "They have found me." Adam stumbled back, his eyes wide with terror. "Who?" The stranger's eyes locked onto his, glowing brighter now. "The ones who destroyed my mother. The ones who will not stop until I am gone." The sound of engines grew louder, the shadow of the ship spreading over the cemetery. Adam's heart raced, fear gripping him tighter than ever before. The grave of his mother lay behind him, and before him stood a wounded alien machine begging for a chance to stay. The choice was rising quickly before him, and the night itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for his answer. The night sky trembled as the dark ship hovered above the cemetery. Its red lights swept across the ground like the eyes of a predator searching for prey. Adam felt frozen in place, torn between fear and disbelief. He had just buried his mother, and now an alien stranger stood before him, warning of enemies that seemed too powerful to even imagine. The wounded figure moved closer to him, its voice urgent, but still calm. "We must leave now." Adam shook his head. "Wait, who are they? Why are they here?" The figure's glowing eyes dimmed for a moment, as if it did not want to answer. Finally it spoke. "They are hunters. They were made like me. But unlike me, they have no heart." Adam could hardly breathe. He stared at the ship above, then back at the stranger. Its armor was scratched, its frame dented, yet it carried itself with dignity. Something in its voice was not just machine, it was almost human. The ground shook again as a beam of red light cut across the cemetery, blasting a tree into flames. Adam flinched, falling to his knees. The stranger moved quickly, standing in front of him like a shield. Sparks flew across its body as another beam grazed its shoulder. It groaned, not like a machine, but like a living being in pain. Adam's fear twisted into something else. "Why are you protecting me?" he asked, his voice trembling. The figure turned its head slightly, blue eyes glowing faintly in the smoke. "Because I know your pain, and because you are the first to listen." Adam swallowed hard, his heart racing. It sounded impossible, yet he could feel the truth in its words. Both of them had lost their mothers. Both were broken by grief. The alien bent down, speaking in a lower voice. "We cannot fight them here. They will destroy everything in their path. Follow me." Without thinking, Adam nodded. He had no choice. Together they ran from the cemetery, weaving through the shadows. The night air was thick with smoke and fire as the hunters descended from the ship, their heavy steps echoing across the ground. Their bodies were massive, armored in dark steel, their eyes burning red. They spread out, scanning the area, their voices cold and empty. "Find the traitor," one of them said. "Do not leave the human alive." Adam's chest tightened with fear. He stumbled, but the stranger pulled him up quickly, guiding him toward the old part of town. They found shelter in an abandoned factory, its windows broken, walls covered in dust and rust. Inside, the silence was deep, broken only by the distant hum of the hunters outside. Adam leaned against a wall, gasping for air. His hands shook violently. He had never felt danger like this. "They're looking for you," he whispered. Why do they want to kill you?" The figure sat heavily on the ground, its movements slow and tired. Sparks still flickered across its damaged armor. Its blue eyes dimmed again, as if remembering something painful. "Because I am different. I was made to serve them, but I learned to feel. I learned to care. They called me broken, a traitor, and when I chose to protect my mother instead of obeying them, they destroyed her." Adam's eyes widened. The words hit him like a blade. He thought about his own mother, the one who had protected him his whole life until illness took her away. He knew that kind of love. He knew that kind of loss. The stranger lowered its head, voice trembling. "I have nothing now. No home, no family, only grief." It paused, then looked at Adam with glowing eyes full of sorrow. "Human, can I stay by your side?" The room grew silent. The only sound was Adam's heartbeat pounding in his ears. He stared at the alien, this broken being who was hunted by its own kind, who spoke of pain and love as if it were human. He should have been terrified, but instead he felt something else. Connection. Adam stepped forward slowly. "You want to stay with me?" The alien nodded once, its voice low. "I have nowhere else to go, and you remind me of what I lost." Adam's throat tightened. For so long he had felt alone in his pain, but now standing before him was a creature that carried the same weight, the same emptiness. It didn't matter that it wasn't human. Grief made them the same. He wanted to answer, but before he could speak, a sharp noise echoed from outside. Heavy footsteps. The hunters had tracked them to the factory. Red beams of light cut through the broken windows, scanning the darkness. Adam's blood ran cold. The stranger rose quickly, pulling him back into the shadows. "Stay behind me," it whispered. The walls shook as the hunters entered. Their metal bodies glowed red, their voices harsh and cruel. "The traitor is here. End this." Adam's breath caught. He pressed himself against the wall, fear consuming him. But even in the terror, a thought burned inside his heart. If this creature could risk everything to protect him, then maybe he was no longer as alone as he believed. The factory filled with the sound of footsteps, weapons charging, and voices calling for blood. The night was about to explode into chaos. Adam's choice was coming fast: trust the stranger, or lose everything again. And just as the hunters closed in, the alien whispered to him, its voice steady despite the danger. "If you let me stay, I will never leave you." The silence inside the factory broke as the heavy metal doors groaned open. The hunters stepped inside, their red eyes glowing in the darkness like burning coals. Their footsteps echoed against the cracked floor, each one sending vibrations through Adam's chest. He pressed his back against the wall, his breath quick and shallow. He wanted to run, but his legs felt weak, as if the ground itself held him in place. The stranger moved in front of him, tall and defiant despite its broken armor. Its blue eyes glowed faintly in the shadows. "Stay behind me," it whispered again, calm yet determined. Adam nodded quickly, gripping the corner of the wall as if it could protect him. The hunters spread out, scanning every corner with beams of red light. Their voices were cold, without feeling. "The traitor is near. Find him. Eliminate the human." Adam's stomach dropped. They knew about him. They were not only hunting the stranger, they wanted him too. He clenched his fists, his mind screaming questions. Why him? Why would machines from another world care about a boy who had nothing? The stranger stood firm, watching as the hunters closed in. Its voice lowered, almost like a promise. "I will not let them take you." A hunter stopped near the far wall. Its eyes flickered brighter, its head tilting as if listening to something only it could hear. Then, with a sudden movement, it raised its arm. A blast of red energy tore through the factory, exploding against the concrete. The shockwave knocked Adam to the ground, dust and debris falling around him. The stranger reacted instantly, pulling Adam up and moving deeper into the shadows. More blasts followed, the factory shaking as pieces of ceiling collapsed. Adam covered his head, coughing as dust filled the air. The hunters advanced, their steps heavy and sure. One of them growled, its voice like metal grinding against stone. "You cannot hide forever, traitor." The stranger's blue eyes glowed brighter. It turned toward Adam, its voice sharp. "We must move. Follow me, and do not stop." Before Adam could answer, the stranger grabbed his arm and sprinted across the factory. Adam stumbled at first, but his fear gave him strength. Together they ran through the maze of broken walls and rusted machines. The hunters followed, their weapons firing beams of red light that cut through the darkness. Each blast missed by inches, sending sparks across the floor. Adam's heart pounded so loudly he thought it might burst. He wanted to scream, but no sound left his throat. He could hear the hunters' voices closer and closer. "Corner them! End them!" The stranger slid behind a rusted machine, pulling Adam with it. For a moment they were hidden. Adam pressed his back against the cold metal, gasping for air. His body trembled, sweat dripping down his face. "They're going to kill us," he whispered. The stranger looked at him, its voice steady despite the chaos. "Not while I still breathe." Adam stared at it, amazed. This creature was broken, hunted, wounded, and yet it stood tall, fearless. Something in Adam's chest shifted. He had thought he was alone in his pain, but now, in the middle of danger, he felt a strange kind of strength. The sound of footsteps grew louder. The hunters were closing in. The stranger glanced around, then pointed to a broken staircase leading up to the second floor. "We go there. Move quietly." They climbed the stairs, each step creaking under their weight. Adam's hands shook as he gripped the rail. When they reached the top, they crouched low, peering over the edge. From above, Adam could see the hunters more clearly, 3 massive machines, each built for war. Their armor gleamed dark red under the dim light, their weapons pulsing with energy. One of them stopped near the center of the factory, scanning the air. "The traitor is near. I can feel his energy." Adam swallowed hard, pressing himself lower against the floor. His heart raced so fast it hurt. He turned to the stranger, whispering, "We can't fight them. We'll die." The stranger's eyes glowed with quiet fire. "Then we do not fight. We survive." For a moment they stayed hidden. The hunters moved below, searching with precise mechanical focus. Adam held his breath, afraid even the sound of his heartbeat would give them away. The silence stretched until it felt unbearable. Then, without warning, one of the hunters turned its head upward. Its glowing eyes locked on Adam's hiding place. It raised its arm, charging its weapon. "Run!" the stranger shouted, grabbing Adam and pulling him as the blast tore through the upper floor. The ground shook violently, the floor collapsing beneath them. Adam screamed as they fell, the world spinning in dust and fire. They hit the ground hard, pain shooting through Adam's body. Before he could move, the hunters closed in, their heavy steps shaking the floor. One raised its weapon, pointing directly at him. The stranger moved fast, shielding Adam with its own body. Sparks flew as the blast hit its shoulder, the smell of burning metal filling the air. It groaned but did not fall. Its voice was sharp, filled with defiance. "You will not take him." Adam's eyes widened. He could see the stranger's body breaking apart, but it stood strong. For the first time, Adam realized it wasn't just protecting him out of duty. It was choosing him. The hunters surrounded them, weapons aimed. Adam's chest heaved, fear choking him. He whispered desperately, "What do we do?" The stranger's blue eyes glowed brighter, its voice soft but steady. "We hold on, together." The hunters stepped closer, their weapons humming with deadly energy. The air grew tense, heavy with the promise of destruction. Adam's hands clenched, his mind racing between terror and hope. The hunt had begun, and there was no turning back. The factory walls shook again as another blast ripped through the air. Adam coughed, his lungs filling with dust. He could barely see, but he felt the stranger's strong hand gripping his arm, pulling him into a dark corridor. They stumbled through broken doors, metal groaning above them as the building threatened to collapse. Behind them, the hunters' voices echoed, sharp and merciless. "Do not let the traitor escape." They ran until the noise faded, until only the sound of Adam's ragged breathing remained. Finally, the stranger stopped inside a hidden room, half buried under rubble. Its glowing blue eyes dimmed and sparks flickered weakly across its damaged chest. It sank down against the wall, metal creaking under its weight. Adam collapsed across from it, his body trembling. His heart hammered so hard he thought it might tear through his chest. They won't stop, will they?" he asked, voice shaking. The stranger lifted its head slowly. "No, they never stop. Not until I am destroyed." Adam shivered, running a hand through his dusty hair. "But why? Why did they want you gone so badly? What did you do to them?" The figure stayed silent for a moment, its glowing eyes staring at the floor as if lost in memory. Finally it spoke, its voice low and heavy with sorrow. "Because I am not like them. I was made to obey, but I learned to feel. I was built for war, built to destroy, but I chose something else." Adam leaned closer, curiosity and fear twisting together in his chest. "Chose what?" The stranger's voice cracked, almost like it was struggling to breathe. "To love." The word hung in the air, soft but powerful. Adam blinked, stunned. "Love? From a creature that looked like a machine?" The stranger's eyes glowed faintly as it continued. "There was a woman, not like me, human but not from this earth. She created me.
Gave me life."
I called her mother." Adam's throat tightened. He thought of the grave he had left behind, the soil still fresh, the flowers still bright. He whispered, almost to himself, "Mother." The alien nodded, its voice softer now. "She taught me more than commands. She taught me words, feelings, things no machine was meant to know. She said I was more than a weapon. She said I was her child." Adam's eyes stung with sudden tears. He tried to hide them, but the grief in his chest pressed harder. He understood every word. He too had a mother who gave him love, who taught him to see the world with warmth, who believed he was more than he believed in himself. And now she was gone. The stranger's voice dropped lower, filled with pain. "When I chose her instead of the war, they called me broken. They hunted us. And when they found us," it stopped, its voice shaking, "they took her from me. They destroyed her because of me." Adam looked down, fists clenched tightly. The anger, the sadness, it all mixed together in his chest. "That's why you said you lost your mother." The stranger nodded slowly. Its glowing eyes dimmed, almost fading to gray. "Yes, she is gone. And now I wander without a purpose." The silence stretched between them, heavy but strangely comforting. Adam stared at the figure across from him, seeing not a monster, not a machine, but something that was just like him. Broken, grieving, lost. He whispered, his voice trembling but sincere. "You're not alone anymore." The stranger looked up sharply, its eyes glowing brighter for a moment. Adam continued, stronger this time. "You can stay. With me. For the first time, the figure's body seemed to relax. The blue glow of its eyes softened, like a dying fire stirred back to life. It nodded slowly, almost like a child accepting a promise. "Then I will stay." Before Adam could say more, the walls rattled again. A distant roar echoed outside, the sound of engines cutting through the night. Adam's stomach dropped. "They found us again," he whispered. The stranger rose slowly, its body groaning under the damage. It placed a hand on Adam's shoulder, steadying him. "Do not fear. As long as I stand, they will not harm you." Adam's chest tightened. This creature had already risked its life for him, and now it was promising more. He wanted to believe in that promise, but deep down he knew. How much longer could the stranger endure? The sound of heavy footsteps grew louder, closer. The hunters were coming. Their red lights cut through the cracks in the walls, searching, hunting. Adam's body trembled, but when he looked into the stranger's glowing eyes, something shifted inside him. He had spent the last days drowning in grief, thinking he was broken beyond repair. But now he realized he wasn't the only one, and maybe, just maybe, they could survive this together. The stranger turned toward the broken doorway, its voice steady. "They will not stop, but neither will we." Adam stood beside it, fear in his chest, but also something else, courage. He nodded once, his voice barely a whisper. "Then we fight." The hunters' voices echoed through the corridors. And the traitor. And the human. The night filled with red light as the hunters broke into the factory ruins. The air shook with the sound of war machines moving closer, weapons ready. Adam's heart raced, but he clenched his fists. He had lost his mother, yes, but he would not lose again. Not this time, not this friend. The stranger stood tall, blue eyes burning like fire. "Together," it said, and as the hunters closed in, Adam realized the truth. Grief had brought them together, but survival would keep them alive. The silence in the ruined factory shattered as the hunters stormed in. Their heavy footsteps echoed like thunder, their glowing red eyes sweeping across the shadows. The air vibrated with the hum of charged weapons ready to kill. Adam's body stiffened, his breath caught in his throat. He had never been so close to death, and every second felt like an eternity. The stranger stepped forward, shielding him with its broken frame. Sparks flickered across its body, but its stance was strong, protective. Its blue eyes glowed like fire against the hunter's red. "Stay behind me," it whispered firmly. Adam's heart pounded. His legs screamed to run, yet he couldn't leave the one who had already saved him. The hunters spread out, closing the circle, their voices cold and merciless. "The traitor will fall tonight. The human will not leave alive." Before Adam could react, one of the hunters raised its arm. A beam of searing red energy shot through the air. The stranger moved instantly, taking the blast across its shoulder. The impact shook the ground, sending Adam stumbling back. The smell of burning metal filled the air. The stranger groaned in pain but still stood tall. "Why are you doing this?" Adam cried, fear and anger twisting inside him. The stranger turned its head slightly, blue eyes glowing brighter through the smoke. "Because you said I could stay." The words cut through Adam's fear. He felt his throat tighten. In that moment, he realized this being wasn't protecting him out of duty. It was protecting him because it chose to. The hunters advanced. Another blast tore through the factory, ripping apart the walls. Dust and fire rained down, choking the air. The stranger grabbed Adam's arm and pulled him toward the far end of the factory. "Run!" They sprinted through the chaos, dodging collapsing beams and falling debris. The hunters' weapons fired again and again, explosions tearing apart the ground behind them. Adam's lungs burned, his legs heavy, but the stranger never slowed. Its grip was strong, unyielding, as if it would drag him through the flames themselves. They burst through a broken door into the open night. The air was cool, but the danger followed close behind. The hunters stormed after them, their glowing eyes like demons in the dark. The ground shook with every step they took. "Where do we go?" Adam gasped. The stranger scanned the horizon quickly. Its voice was steady despite the chaos. "The ruins. There are tunnels. We can lose them there." Adam barely understood, but he trusted. They dashed through the abandoned streets, broken cars and shattered buildings looming around them. Behind them, the hunters fired again. Explosions lit the night sky, fire chasing their heels. At one point, Adam stumbled over a piece of rubble, crashing to the ground. Pain shot up his arm as his palm scraped against the concrete. He cried out. But before he could push himself up, a hunter aimed its weapon directly at him. Time slowed. Adam saw the glow of red energy charging. His mind screamed, "This is the end." But in the same instant, the stranger leapt in front of him, taking the full blast across its chest. The impact sent it crashing to the ground beside Adam, sparks flying wildly. Smoke rose from the deep burn across its armor. Adam's eyes widened in horror. "No!" He crawled to the stranger's side, his voice breaking. "Why would you do that? Why?" The stranger's voice was faint, weak, but still steady. "Because you gave me something. No one else did. A place to belong." Tears burned Adam's eyes. He shook his head fiercely. "I can't lose you too. Not after Mom. Not after everything." His chest ached, grief mixing with desperation. The hunters drew closer, their weapons glowing. Adam's fear turned into fury. He stood in front of the fallen stranger, fists clenched, though he had no weapon, no power. "You'll have to kill me too," he shouted at the machines. The hunters paused, their red eyes flickering. One tilted its head, voice cold. "The human chooses the traitor. Then he will share his fate." The stranger pushed itself up slowly, its body trembling. Its blue eyes glowed brighter, burning against the night. "No, he is under my protection, and I will not fail again." Energy pulsed from its chest, brighter than before. The ground trembled, a wave of light rippling outward. The hunters staggered for a moment, their systems disrupted. "Run!" the stranger shouted again, pulling Adam to his feet. Together they fled, rushing toward the broken ruins at the edge of the city. Behind them the hunters roared, their voices shaking the earth. "Do not let them escape." They reached the ruins, slipping into a narrow tunnel hidden beneath collapsed stone. The walls closed around them, dark and damp. Adam's chest heaved, his body weak from exhaustion, but they kept moving deeper into the tunnels. Finally, after what felt like forever, they stopped in a cavern, the hunters' voices distant now. Adam collapsed against the wall, tears streaking his dirty face. The stranger sank down beside him, sparks still flickering across its broken frame. For a long time, neither spoke. The air was filled only with their heavy breathing. Then Adam whispered, voice trembling, "Why do you keep saving me? You could have left me behind. You should have." The stranger turned its head slowly, its blue eyes glowing softly. "Because I will not lose another family." Adam's breath caught. Family. The word wrapped around his heart like fire and ice. He had thought he had no one left. But now, here in the darkness, broken and hunted, he realized he wasn't alone. The stranger placed a hand on his shoulder, its voice steady despite its pain. "As long as I stand, you will not be alone." Adam nodded, wiping his tears. For the first time since his mother's death, he felt something he thought he had lost forever. Hope. But outside, the hunters were still searching. Their red lights pierced the ruins, their voices promising destruction. The fight was far from over. And Adam knew the hardest choices were still to come. The cavern wall shook as the hunters drew nearer. Their voices echoed through the tunnels, cold and relentless. "The traitor is close, and him, and the human." Adam pressed his back against the damp stone, his chest rising and falling too fast. His lungs burned from the run, his legs ached, but fear kept him sharp. He looked at the stranger beside him. Its body was cracked, glowing faintly in the darkness. Sparks hissed from its chest where the blast had struck earlier. "You can't fight them again," Adam whispered, panic breaking his words. "You'll die." The stranger's blue eyes flickered, not with weakness but with resolve. "If I must fall, then I will fall protecting you." "No," Adam said quickly, shaking his head. His voice broke into anger. "Don't say that. I already lost my mother. I can't lose you too, not now. Not when I finally have someone who understands." The stranger placed a heavy, cracked hand on Adam's shoulder. Its touch was warm, despite the cold metal. "You gave me a place when I had none. That is more than I ever dreamed. If my end means your survival, then I am ready." Adam's eyes filled with tears. He grabbed the stranger's arm tightly, his voice desperate. "Don't do this, please. There has to be another way." Before the stranger could answer, the ground above them trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling as the hunters broke deeper into the tunnels. Their red lights pierced the cracks in the stone. The sound of weapons charging filled the air. The stranger looked up, its blue glow steady and calm. "Time is ending." Then its chest began to shine brighter, pulsing with energy. Adam's eyes widened. He realized what was happening. "No, no! You're going to destroy yourself." The stranger nodded once. "My core can release enough power to stop them. but I will not survive the blast. Adam's heart shattered. He grabbed the stranger's arm with both hands, shaking his head fiercely. You can't. You'll leave me alone again. You'll leave me like she did. His voice broke into a sob. Please, don't leave me. The stranger hesitated, its eyes dimming for a moment. Its voice softened, like a parent comforting a child. Adam, I was built to destroy, but meeting you taught me how to protect. That is how I want to end. Adam's tears fell freely now. His body shook as he cried out. No, you don't end here. You're not leaving me. You promised. The hunter's footsteps thundered closer. Their red lights filled the tunnel, their weapons raised. The stranger stood tall, its body glowing brighter, preparing for the final act. Adam made a choice. He stepped in front of the stranger, spreading his arms wide, blocking it from the hunters. His voice shook, but it was filled with defiance. No, if you do this, you break your promise. You said I wouldn't be alone. You said you'd stay. Then stay. The stranger froze. Its chest glowed like a sun ready to burst, but its eyes locked on Adam's face. For the first time, its body trembled. Not from damage, but from conflict. Adam's voice broke into a whisper. You'll never leave again. Remember? The words struck deep. The stranger's light dimmed slightly, the charge faltering. Its voice cracked, almost human in its pain. I remember. The hunters raised their weapons. Nowhere left to run, one hissed. Adam turned, standing beside the stranger, his fists clenched though he had no weapon. Then we faced them together. The stranger looked at him, something new shining in its blue eyes. Not just sorrow, not just resolve, hope. It lowered its glowing chest, the self-destruction halting. Instead, it reached into its broken frame, pulling free a small device that sparked with light. There is another way, a signal hidden by my mother. She told me if the day came when I could no longer fight, I must call. Adam's breath caught. Call who? The stranger's eyes glowed brighter. Those who still believe, those who fight for more than destruction. With the last of its strength, it pressed the device. A sharp pulse of light shot into the sky, escaping through cracks in the ruins above. The hunters staggered, momentarily blinded. Outside, the heavens shifted. A deep hum filled the air, louder than thunder, shaking the ground. Adam and the stranger looked up through the cracks of stone. A massive shadow descended from the clouds. Larger than the hunter's ship, darker than the night sky, yet glowing with golden light. Its engines roared as it blocked out the stars. The hunters turned their heads upward, their red eyes flickering with alarm. Impossible, one hissed. Adam stared in awe, tears still on his cheeks. What is that? The stranger's blue eyes shone, steady and calm now. Hope. The cavern filled with the roar of engines, the hunters scattering in panic as the golden ship descended. Adam gripped the stranger's arm tightly, refusing to let go. His heart was still racing, but for the first time it wasn't only fear. It was something stronger. He whispered, voice trembling but sure. You didn't sacrifice yourself. You stayed. The stranger looked at him, and for the first time its cracked face formed something close to a smile. Because you reminded me, I'm not alone. But the battle was not finished. The hunters regrouped, raising their weapons toward both Adam and the stranger. The tunnels shook as the golden ship prepared to strike. The sacrifice had been stopped, but the war was just beginning. The cavern shook violently as the golden ship descended from the clouds. Its engines roared like thunder, and beams of light poured down into the ruins. The hunters staggered, their red eyes flickering in alarm. For the first time since Adam had seen them, they looked uncertain. The stranger pulled itself upright, sparks still trailing from its broken armor. Its blue eyes glowed steady, unafraid. Adam stood at its side, trembling but refusing to move away. His grief, his fear, his pain, none of it mattered now. He would not leave the one who stayed with him. The hunters raised their weapons, voices sharp with rage. Destroy them both before reinforcements arrive. They charged forward, the tunnels filling with red light. Adam flinched as the ground split from the blasts. Dust and fire choked the air. But before the hunters could strike again, the golden ship released its own power. Blinding beams of gold tore through the cavern, striking the hunters with explosive force. The air filled with the sound of crashing metal as two hunters were thrown across the stone, their armor shattered, sparks spraying wildly. The last hunter roared, its voice filled with fury. Traitor! You cannot escape! It lunged forward, weapon aimed directly at Adam. The stranger stepped between them once again. Its chest glowed fiercely, defiance burning in its voice. He is under my protection. The hunter fired. The blast shook the cavern, but the stranger caught it with its own body, absorbing the energy into its chest. Its blue glow flared so bright that even the hunter hesitated. Then, with one final strike, the stranger released the energy back in a wave of pure light. The hunter staggered, its armor cracking. It stumbled backward, roaring in pain before collapsing into the dust. Silence followed, broken only by Adam's ragged breathing. The golden ship lowered into the ruins, its hull shining like a second sun. A hatch opened and figures stepped out, tall, armored, but not like the hunters. Their armor gleamed silver and gold, their eyes glowing with gentle light instead of red. One of them approached, its voice calm yet commanding. "We received the signal. The child of the Maker has survived." Adam looked at the stranger in confusion. "Child of the Maker?" The stranger lowered its head, its voice softer now. "My mother, she was one of them. She created me to be more than a weapon, and now, her allies have come." The silver-armored beings bowed their heads slightly toward the stranger, then turned their gaze to Adam. For a moment, Adam felt small, fragile under their piercing eyes. But instead of fear, he felt warmth. One of them spoke gently. "And this human, he stands with you?" The stranger looked at Adam. Its blue eyes glowed with quiet strength. "Yes, he is my family now." Adam's chest tightened, his throat burning with emotion. After everything, after the grave, the grief, the hunters, he wasn't alone. He whispered, almost afraid to break the moment. "And you'll never leave again?" The stranger reached out, placing a cracked hand on Adam's shoulder. Its voice was steady, sure. "Never." The golden warriors moved quickly, gathering the broken remains of the hunters. "We must leave. More will come." Adam glanced at the ship, then back at the graveyard in the distance beyond the ruins. His mother was gone, buried in the earth he might never see again. The thought cut deep, but when he looked at the stranger beside him, the pain shifted. He realized something powerful. His mother had left him love, and now he carried that love into something new. He wiped his tears, nodding. "Then I'll go, but only if we go together." The stranger bowed its head, its glowing eyes soft. Together, they stepped onto the golden ship. Inside, the walls gleamed, filled with light that hummed like a living heartbeat. Adam felt small but not afraid. For the first time since losing his mother, he felt like the future wasn't empty. As the ship rose into the sky, the ruins below grew smaller, the world of his grief left behind. Adam stood at the window, watching the earth fade into the distance. His chest ached with both sorrow and hope. He whispered softly, as if speaking to the stars, "Mom, I'm not alone anymore." Beside him, the stranger stood tall, its cracked body steady, its blue eyes watching over him. It spoke in a voice filled with quiet promise. "A new beginning, Adam, for both of us." The golden ship soared higher, breaking through the clouds into the endless night of space. Ahead lay danger, mystery, and war. But for Adam, the boy who had lost everything, and for the stranger who had been made only to destroy, this was no longer the end. It was the start of something greater, a bond born from grief. A family made of two, a vow that neither would ever break again. And as the stars stretched before them, one truth remained. This was only the beginning of their story.